it's a good time to begin. So welcome everybody to these sessions with Siets and I on systemic intelligence and these check-ins. Welcome to those for whom this is the second time, and welcome to those for whom this is the first time. And for those of you who this is the first time, you can listen to the first one on YouTube. So each of the sessions are recording, so you can catch up and connect with what's gone before. And today, Siets is going to lead us in the conversation, and I'll join in at the appropriate parts. So over to you, Siets.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, when I was preparing for this moment, lots of thoughts went through my mind, and I just had to skip them all and just wait which one came back. And the one that came back was the one that was living in my body actually since Friday afternoon. And this has to do with my sister. I have 3 sisters. I'm the oldest. And one of them, her name is Doreen. She looks very much like me. You'd say we are twins, and sometimes people even confuse us. We look very much alike, but we have very different lifestyles. And my sister Doreen, she works as a manager in a home for elderly people. And she texted the family group app that there was an outbreak of COVID in the home that she's the manager of. And it is quite a severe outbreak. So there's lots of people living there who actually are suffering from COVID-19, but also staff is suffering. And I could sense in the wordings she used, or perhaps in the energy, I don't know, but I could sense that this was really something big for her. It's something different than her normal management tasks. And it was also different than everything that she'd already experienced since the outbreak of COVID. So this was living in my body, and I thought she is living in a reality where there's lots of fear for this disease. There's a lot of fear for what is going to happen. How many more people are contaminated? Will she be contaminated? How many people will die? Will there be enough help? Will there be enough supplies? All big relevant questions for her. My reality is completely different. I live with my family. I hardly see anyone. I hardly go out. I only drive my car once a week when I go to the gym, and that's about it. And for me, the disease is living in a different planet, and I accept all the regulations, I follow all the rules, but it's not part of my life as the virus, as the disease. It is part of my life as in that I'm reflecting on the choices I make, on what is important, on how to make decisions. So I live in a very different reality, and there's some kind of a competition between those two realities. So people who are living in the reality of the disease, they seem to have more right to the truth. So when they say something, it's true because they are living in this kind of reality. So I feel there's a lot of things I cannot really speak about. I cannot really speak about how all the regulations affect me as an entrepreneur, because I'm not in the midst of all of this. So it starts to become uncomfortable for me, and in a way alienating, that I'm not allowed to speak about many, many things. So this is the theme I wanted to bring up for this meeting, about the unspoken reality. I don't know, Sarah, what's it like for you?
Yeah, so similar, although different, not with a health worker, but last week I went to Sydney and did my first face-to-face work. I had 3 days of training with a small group, and 2 of them arrived from Melbourne lockdown with masks on, and the rest of us didn't have masks on. So there was this little moment of anxiety about, what do we do here? You know, and so we had the conversation about how do we make everybody feel welcome and comfortable. And with a very short time, the people from Melbourne could take their masks off and relax. So this was a little bit easier. But then same with a client organization, and there the tension was not so much because I was there a following day, and this was their first face-to-face event. But in their organization, they have this challenge of people coming back to the office. And we were talking about the background anxiety, you know, that maybe it's not even aware that it's an anxiety, but it's still there and it's affecting people. And again, this thing about in business not appearing weak and not appearing anxious, you know, to have to appear that you're relaxed about anything, and therefore you can't speak about what's really true. In fact, you may not even notice that it's in the background. And then when Siets and I were talking this morning, I thought also this is coming up in much bigger ways. So if we think about the tension currently, for those of you who are in Europe, I don't know if you know how big the tension is between China and Australia right now. We're experiencing very severe trade sanctions on some of our like beef and wine and barley and you know, our core trading activities, not with iron ore, that sits in a different category for a different reason, which is even interesting because China needs the iron ore. But this Australia is having a voice about things that have historically not been spoken about. So they've all been secret, but nonetheless felt. And it's now out in the open. And these sanctions are getting more and more severe. And, you know, quite this competition that Siets you were talking about, this competition has now got quite ugly in many respects and will have very big impacts. And I had the same experience in America. I was on a call with all North Americans, Canada and US, and the Americans were speaking about how this now, if they wore a mask in public, they were considered left wing, and the far right who were carrying guns openly in the street made them feel unsafe in their own homes, in their own suburbs, in their own states. So this theme of what can't be spoken, and what's the impact of what can't be spoken.
Yeah, and I think it's especially, thank you, Sarah. I think it might be interesting for a group like this to speak about it, because in a way, many of the circumstances we're living in are repetitions of the history. So I see a lot of similarities with 100 years ago in Europe, or perhaps even 17 years ago in Europe. So our invitation for this call is to speak the unspoken. Oh, I'll put it like here. Yeah, sorry. So share your unspoken reality in the breakout rooms we're going to create. Share the unspoken reality you hold at this moment. And the other two persons, they will listen with the best quality of presence. And the best quality of presence is always to make an invitation. The way you're listening is an invitation. The way you're asking questions is an invitation. The way you're responding is an invitation. And you don't have to agree. You don't have to go into discussion. You just invite to share the unspoken reality. And the only goal is to create a moment to be able to experience what it is like to be able to share your unspoken reality. That's the only thing. And we don't have to agree. I'll put it up here. You don't have to make any plans. You don't have to make any decisions. Just create a moment for yourself. And if you don't know what we're talking about, just start talking and listen to yourself when it happens. We'll create. So who would like to add, comment, speak up?
I'd like to ask Sarah to repeat the sentence she was saying as we left the room. I just need to think about that some more. You said, where else in your system is anger? And
where else in your system is anger unspoken?
Ah, okay.
And what difference would it make if you spoke about it?
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful for me.
And for everybody else, you can replace anger with anxiety, fear, scarcity, lack of health, or whatever in your family or in your system, in the systems you're part of. Yes. Thank you. Anyone else?
One thing that came up in ours is unspoken privilege. You know, we talked about the difference in views about restrictions, for example, in Australia, and that it could be seen as a privileged view to say, you know, let's eliminate COVID, where some people clearly were suffering financially.
Yeah.
And we felt there really has been a class divide.
Yeah.
And therefore the unspoken part of that is actually about privilege and about class divide. And therefore it's been difficult, and I can speak for myself sometimes to say, I think we should keep up with the restrictions and keep them going for as long as possible. But that's a privileged position.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with privilege by itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It hasn't felt that way though.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the privilege is being given to you. And it's not something you're taking. And receiving a privilege doesn't mean that you take where others have to give. Receiving a privilege has to do with being put in a place where you have resources other people don't have. And that's a different position. Yeah.
Which actually is what the whole notion of noblesse oblige is, which is, you know, if you are privileged, then there is an obligation to take care of people who don't have privilege. And when we deny that, that's the contract that comes with privilege, then privilege becomes harmful.
Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to add, Sarah?
No, that's enough. Yeah, I think Fran had her hand up, so
oh, sorry, Fran.
Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to acknowledge the 3 people that I worked with, that all the time was spent on my unspoken reality. And so thank you. And hopefully we all learnt something in that process. And it was, and the thing that came out for me was when we're pointing to other things or other people, that where the issue is, it's very often clearly with ourselves and our own, and not often, but in this case, it was an ancestral carrying forward of an unspoken system that's showing up in other parts of my world. Yeah. So thank you for that insight and learning.
Thank you, Fran.
Thanks for putting the story. It helped me a lot.
Great.
So to me, being able to just address the unspoken reality, the unspoken story, but the sensed story, so it's already there, it's just not manifested in the form of words. I think when we're talking about systemic intelligence, it's an important skill, especially these days, to be able to recognize it and to find ways to gently bring it in, to find ways to gently connect both worlds. So what I did with my sister to conclude that story is that I sent her a private message offering her my help, which is something really unexpected. But I waited and I waited until I could really feel it from their heart that I really wanted to be there and to help there, and to make bridges between the both realities we live in. And it's up to her whether she accepts the offer or not. And it's up to me to, if she accepts it, to create a new kind of exchange between the two of us, but also the two worlds we are representing. And well, it's almost Christmas. I think this is the Christmas message in this century. So I wish you a lot of joy and wisdom and pleasure, and perhaps a little bit of bravery in order to step out of this reality of unspoken worlds. And I hope to see you next time for the next session of these systemic intelligence check-ins. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Happy
Thanks,
holidays.
everyone.